What is up, everyone? It is Drew, Traveler of the Burning Abyss here, back with another video. And a couple days ago, I posted my trap Burning Abyss deck, and I wanted to see if people wanted to see me do like combo test hand type stuff. And per usual, the answer was yes. And I'm going to be doing that for you guys. I know some people wanted test hands. Well, I totally understand that, but I have posted a lot of test hands for the deck lately. So this is going to probably be a little more combo oriented and things that you can do. I said I would show you guys the whole Trisbaena lock that can be done. So I will be showcasing the Trisbaena lock because I think that's actually very, very relevant currently. So we'll go into that and kind of explain the importance of it and essentially how it works. And then I'll show you guys some other basic combos that you can do too with the deck. And maybe at the end, I will do a test hand or two. So let's go ahead, jump right in. Before we do, obviously, make sure you guys are subscribed. If you're not already, go ahead and smash the button, turn the notification bell on so when I upload cool and awesome content, just like the video you're watching right now. And obviously, give the video a thumbs up. I think that goes without saying. Everybody usually does that, especially for my Burning Abyss content. So let's go ahead and jump into this. I'm not going to do any kind of cuts with the video today. Well, I won't do any cuts if there are test hands, but I want to grab some stuff for the combo lines. So I'm going to start with the basic tour guide combo, which tour guide could be substituted for Graph and another BA, or it could be Rhino Warrior and another BA. Basically, you just need something to get to a Graph, and tour guide does that, Rhino Warrior does that. So you would normal summon your tour guide and you would get the effect, which is going to grab you a copy of Graph from the deck and get the Graph on the board. And we'll give this a cut. And from there, you're going to overlay these two and you're going to make Dante. You're going to detach the Graph, and then you're going to mill just one. We're going to hope it's not a Destiny Hero package. Okay, it's not. It's a second Graph, which just kind of sucks anyways. But we activate Graph effect to special summon a Seer from deck. And where is he? I know we got two in here. Oh, they're right. They're both right at the top. That's why. So mix those up a little. Perfect. And then you're going to link these two off. And you're going to make a Verte, and then your Seer will be chainlink 1 to target Dante. Dante will be chainlink 2 to target Seer. So this comes back to hand. This specials out. Then we discard the Seer and we make the Beatrice. And then after that we can Verte. We'll send the Fusion Destiny. Might as well move the Celestial up. So wherever it is. There's Dasher. Wow, that's the same thing happened with the Seer. The Seer was the first and third card, and the Fusion Destiny was the first and third card. That's really weird. So then we would send the Celestial and the Dasher, and that'll end up getting us our DPE out onto the board. And from there, we can just end our turn. So basically, you have a pretty sweet board here in that of Beatrice and DPE. And the cool part is with the ban list is that you can detach the Dante from Beatrice and you can send Fairy Tale Snow, and then you have a really good third interruption. You also have the option of sending Backjack. You have the option of sending Farfa. Like, there are obviously other things that you can do. You don't have to send one particular card. It all depends on what you're playing against and what your opponent has established. So that's just off of a tour guide or a Rhino Warrior in a BA, or a Graph in a BA. That's essentially where it gets you. I'm going to show you a combo somewhat similar that just involves Fusion Destiny and Tour Guide. So basically you have to open up a Fusion Destiny for it. And I'm going to leave the combo pieces on the top, except I'm going to swap it out for a random card here. Solemn Strike is fine. So basically this board is a little bit better, but it essentially accomplishes the same thing with one more interruption, which is pretty sweet. So you're going to run through your standard combo that I just spoke of. So you would tour guide into the Graph, and then you would Graph effect, get the Dante, and then you would detach mill 1, and then the Graph triggers, summon the Seer, and then you get to link these for the Verte. It's basically all the same up to here, and you get these back. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually messed it up. You don't summon the Verte. You summon IP. I completely screwed that up. I apologize, guys. You summon the IP. This still comes back to hand. That still summons. Then you discard the Seer to summon the Beatrice. And then you activate the Fusion Destiny, which will send the Dasher and Celestial to get out your DPE. So this is basically the same combo, but instead of making the Verte, you make the IP because you already have Fusion Destiny in hand. So now what ends up happening is you can detach this, and you could send, we'll send a Fairy Tale Snow. Why not? That'll work. So we send our Fairy Tale Snow and our Dante triggers to add Seer back to hand. So our Seer comes back. And then from here, we can use our DP to pop something. And then his Graveyard Effect would trigger. And then we can IP these two away for a Nightmare Unicorn. Unicorn will discard the Seer to shuffle a card in our opponent's field back. And then the Seer will trigger to revive the Dante. And then we still have plenty of materials in grave for our Fairy Tale Snow. So it's basically just an added interruption if you open the Fusion Destiny with the normal combo route. Now I'm going to show you guys the combo that I was referring to with the Trisbaena, because I think that's a very important combo to talk about. So for that combo, we're going to need a tour guide and a Farfa. There's a tour guide and, well, there's a Farfa. Okay. So we have the tour guide Farfa here. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to normal summon the tour guide. Tour guide effect will trigger, and we're going to summon a graph off of this, wherever it may be. There's our graph. Now, typically speaking, you would go into a Dante here in the normal combo route, but seeing we have Farfa, we have a play that's actually pretty sweet. Now, if you have Fusion Destiny, this board is going to end differently, but just know that how I'm going to show it to you is how it would end if you don't have a Fusion Destiny in hand. So instead of making Dante, you're actually going to link these into Cherubini. So the Cherubini comes out, and then the graph effect triggers, which is going to summon a Seer from our deck. So the Seer hits the board. I just like to put them in the Cherubini zones. You don't have to, though. It's obviously up to you guys where you want to put them. And then our Cherubini effect triggers, and we end up sending a Libic. So the Libic is going to trigger Engrave, which is then going to special summon our Farfa from our hand. So our Farfa hits the board. Then we overlay these two, and we make a Dante. It's very important that you do not detach to mill. Like you leave the Dante with the two materials. There's no reason to be milling here, trust me. So from here, you're actually going to link the Cherubini and the Dante, and you're going to make your Trisbaena. So what happens here is your Seer is going to be chain link 1 to target your Dante will be chain link 2 to target your Seer, and your Farfa will be chain link 3 to target your Trisbaena. I would always order it that way. That's just the way that I like to order it. I think it's the best route. It works very, very well. So the Farfa resolves first, banishing the Trisbaena, and then we get to add the Seer back to hand, and we get to special summon the Dante out onto the field. From here, you're going to discard your Seer, and normally you would just make the Beatrice in a main monster zone and like be fine, but you actually make it in the extra monster zone. It doesn't matter which one, you just make it in an extra monster zone, and you'll see why momentarily. So if you have a DPE, or I'm sorry, a Fusion Destiny, this is the point where you would activate the Fusion Destiny and you'd summon out a DPE. So in that scenario, you would summon a DPE to any of your main monster zones, doesn't really matter. But the important part is the end phase, because Farfa returns the Trisbaena out. So because the Trisbaena was already summoned and it's returning to the field, you don't have to put it in an extra monster zone. You get to put it in a main monster zone. So you put it in the zone directly under the other extra monster zone. So what happens is, any monster that your opponent ends up summoning to that extra monster zone is going to be banished because of Trisbaena. So if you're playing against like Sky Striker, Trisbaena just locks them out of the extra monster zone unless they have like a Widow Anchor and they negate this. But it just locks any deck that's going to make a bunch of link cards out of the extra monster zone. So that's a very, very important extra deck lock, because if your opponent is playing a primarily link-based strategy, they're not going to be able to do anything. Like they're just going to sit there and suffer because it's not going to work for them. So that's the really cool part about Trisbaena. Trisbaena has that really neat interaction, and obviously we have the Beatrice for another interruption here, which is fantastic. So multiple things we can really do. Really, really fantastic. I think this is, you know, absolutely phenomenal. But that's those are the kind of the combo lines I wanted to talk about. The other combo line associated with the Trisbaena is, let's say your opponent has a skill drain up and you summon like something to a zone that Trisbaena points to. And I'm not going to run through a combo because this is situational. You summon something to a zone that Trisbaena points to, and his effect does trigger. Skill Drain just would negate it. But if you have like Fairy Tale Snow Engrave, you could chain the snow to his effect activation. And when you do that, you actually banish him, and his effect still resolves because he's not in the field, and you actually get to banish your opponent's spell and trap lineup, which is pretty crazy. That's actually a really, really important thing to do. I believe you could also do that with droplets, but if your opponent has Skill Drain up, you're probably not going to be having a reason to use droplets. But we're going to go ahead and actually do some test hands. So at this point, I am actually going to cut the camera and go ahead and get this all set up to show you guys some test hands. Okay, so we're going to start off with our first hand here momentarily. I think I'm going to do 3 test hands. I know in most of my videos I do anywhere from 3 to 5 test hands. That's pretty common. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are all good there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we opened up combo. Obviously opening up the Seer isn't very helpful. We didn't really need to open up the Seer, which is why I only play 2, because I don't like to draw it, but it still happens. However, we're going to normal the Graph and then special the Libic, and then we would overlay, make the Dante. The Dante will detach the Graph and mill 1. Let's hope it's not a Destiny Hero card. It's not. It's a Skarm. That's actually really good. That's a fantastic mill. The Graph effect triggers, which will summon a Seer from our deck, which kind of, that's why it sucks that we already have one in hand, because we really didn't want to draw it, but that's okay. We still have trap cards to back us up too. So now we can link these 2 for the Verte, doing our combo line that we've been doing, and then the Seer chainlink 1 target Dante, and the Dante chainlink 2 to target. In this case, we're actually going to grab Graph because we already have a Seer in hand. So the Dante hits the board, which is cool. And then we're going to pitch the Graph, make the Beatrice. Then we'll use the Verte effect to send the Fusion Destiny, which we can send the Celestial, and we can send the Dasher. So we send those, and we get to summon out our DPE. And then from there, we're going to set both Paleozoic Dinomischus. And during the end phase, we will get the Skarm to trigger. And for the Skarm, I'm going to be adding Farfa. So the reason that I'm adding Farfa and not something like Tour Guide is that the Dinomischus combo with the Farfa is 2 banishes, and I'd rather have that established on my board anyways. So what basically we have set up here is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 minimum interactions. On top of that, we have a decent amount of cards in graveyard, and the fact that we could send Fairy Tale Snow off of Beatrice increases our odds of being able to do more and more crazy plays. So basically, our opponent summons like a card or something, we can pop it with the DPE. Our opponent were to summon another card or 2 cards, you could Dinomischus, pitch this in the Farfa, and then banish it. Then you could always do the Beatrice to send the Fairy Tale Snow. The Dante would then trigger to add back, in this case, and it's very important here, this is what I want to point out because we already have Seer in hand. You would probably add either the Graph or the Skarm. I'm going to go with the Skarm because we can assume they get another card out, and then we can Dinomischus pitch the Skarm. And at this point, you have the option of summoning the other Dynamiscus from grave because you're activating a trap card, but you don't have to do that. It's totally up to you. We're going to be banishing stuff off of snow anyways, most likely. So Dynamiscus would banish another card, and then you can snow, banish. I would banish just both Dynamiscus. Fusion Destiny is 3. Then Libic is 4. Graph is 5. Farfa is 6, and we can banish from field, so I'm just going to banish the Verte. Make that 7. The snow hits the board, and Book of Moon's one of their monsters. I don't think they're playing through all these interruptions. That's a lot for them to try and play through. So, like, being able to establish that is really crazy. So we're going to go ahead and hop on to test hand number 2 of 3. All right, so test hand 2 of 3 coming right at you. We're just going to go ahead and shuffle this up a little bit more. So essentially this deck is not only a trap deck, but it does obviously have some very OTK-centric potential. It typically, like, it takes a full turn to set up. So you do your turn 1 setup, and then on your following turn, you just OTK your opponent, which is fantastic. So it's just a very, very strong strategy in that aspect, to where the first turn board kind of sets it up to where your opponent can't play, and then the second turn you just clean house. So we have our 5 cards, and this is actually a ridiculous hand because of the fact that we have the Rhino Warrior and 2 random BA names. So now I'm going to make a point here that I think some people do need to hear, and I think that this is actually very important to note with something like this. So in the current format that we're about to be approaching on February 7th, this upcoming Monday, we are seeing a very large decrease in people playing Nibiru because of the Brave engine. So the Brave engine comes out, and a lot of people say, okay, I don't want to play Nibiru because I don't want to sit there and lose to, the Brave engine. So that's something to keep in mind, that you don't have to worry about the Brave engine as much. Or I'm sorry, Nibiru as much. So with that being said, you can try and pop off more often with your board. However, you still have to be cautious in certain aspects, and because of that, there are situations where you would just normal Rhino, special Calcab or Alec, and then discard the other one for Beatrice, and basically pass after you have overlaid the Beatrice on the Dante you made. But in this scenario, I'm going to show you the comboing off piece. But just keep in mind, if you want to play more conservatively and you are scared of Nibiru because maybe your locals has more people playing it, or you're playing on ladder on like Dueling Book or something, you're scared of people having it, you can just make your Dante with Rhino and one of these, and then you pitch the other one for Beatrice. In my personal opinion, I would say make the Rhino with the Alec as a material and pitch the Calcab, and then set these 2 and pass, which is a fully viable route that you can go. It works perfectly fine. You still have multiple interruptions, but we're going to say that I am just going to go and combo off. So we normal the Rhino, we special the Calcab, and we make our Dante. We're going to mill 1, hope we don't hit a Destiny Hero card. We don't. Rhino triggers, and we get to send our Graph. Graph effect triggers to summon the Seer. And then after this is shuffled, we're going to run through our standard play, and I'm just going to talk about the trap interactions that'll occur on our opponent's turn. So our Seer chainlink 1 target Dante, Dante chainlink 2 target Seer. This comes to hand. Summon the Dante. Typically speaking, I would at this point discard the Seer if we didn't have any other BAs, but I'm going to pitch the Alec because we don't really need it too much right now. And we're going to make the Beatrice. Then we're going to go ahead and do our Verte play here. Grab the Dasher first. There's the Destiny, and we just need Celestial. There we go. So we send our DP package there to the grave. And we're going to be making our Phoenix Enforcer. Then we're going to be setting 2 cards just like the first test hand and passing. So it's essentially the same board as far as what our setup looks like. However, the interactions are different because we can go Fiend Griefing. And Fiend Griefing can send something like Backjack. So the Backjack hits the grave, and the Backjack will trigger, which is going to be very important if we reveal a trap card, which I'm hoping we do. So Then we go ahead and we reveal the top 3. We do hit some trap cards, which is great. So I'm going to stack it just like this. So Dynamiscus will be on top, Strike will be second, and Destiny will be third. These go to the top. We can banish the Backjack to reveal the Dynamiscus and set it. We still have the DP pop and then the Graveyard trigger. Don't forget the Graveyard trigger effect, because that is very important. At this point, we can Dynamiscus too if our opponent does something else. Get rid of the Seer. I'm sorry. We actually wouldn't do that there. We would do the Beatrice first, and we would send something along the lines of like Fairy Tale Snow, because why wouldn't we send Fairy Tale Snow? Cards are really, really good. So Snow hits the grave. And at this point, if our opponent does something else, we can activate the Dynamiscus, and we can discard the Seer, banish their card, and then the Seer will trigger to summon the Dante back. And then we have the option to trap trick our opponent if we want to, depending on what they're playing. We could assume that, like, if it's PK, you can just do the IDP. You can banish that, and you set the other one. And then you can get rid of their PK stuff, which is really good. And then if they have any kind of additional follow-up, you have all these cards engraved that you can banish to summon a Fairy Tale Snow. So that's actually a really good hand, because it's... That hand really helped us out any kind of deck that plays like graveyard strategies. That's basically what the deck did. So keep in mind, if you're playing graveyard strategies, your Ice Dragon's Prison and your Fiend Griefing are going to be your best friends, and they're going to put in a lot of work for you. So that's actually really cool. We can go ahead and hop on to test hand 3 of 3 now to basically wrap the video up. Alrighty, so test hand 3 of 3. It's very similar in the respect that most of the things that we're doing here are all going to be centered around the same combo. It's, you know, just a matter of whether or not you draw different cards that are going to push you towards a different route or line of play. But most of the time, you're just going for the same thing over and over again. You're just trying to set up your typical DP Beatrice with back row. Like, that's basically what we're looking for. So there's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Full combo, once again. That's... Well, actually, this is technically the... Oh, no, it's not, actually. I was going to say this is the combo with the Trisbaena, but we drew Libic. If this was any other card, we would have the Trisbaena combo. Well, actually, we could have the... yeah, we could have the Trisbaena combo. This actually works. If you open up 3 BAs like this, which isn't going to happen very often, you can normal the Libic. You can special the Alec. You can link these for Cherubini. Libic triggers because you use normal. You get to summon the Farfa. You use the Cherubini effect. And in this scenario, we're going to be sending the Graph. The Graph effect triggers to summon a Seer. And then we get to overlay these two. We can make a Dante. And then we link the Dante and the Cherubini for the Trisbaena. Then we will get the Seer Chainlink 1 target Dante, Dante 2 target Seer, and then Farfa 3 target Trisbaena. That gets banished, and then these will both resolve to get the special and the add. Then we'll be pitching the Seer to make our Beatrice in the extra monster zone. Then we set the Ice Dragon's Prison. During the end phase, the Trisbaena comes back, and we get to pass our turn. So there is only one downside to the Ice Dragon's Prison being here, and it's the fact that if our opponent summons something to the extra monster zone, then the Trisbaena is just going to banish this and it's going to be useless. But still, it's better to have this set and hope that they summon something in the main monster zone instead, you know, depending on their strategy. But that's the lock that you could set up. We drew it in a different manner, but it still works that way. The Rhino Warrior is just kind of sitting in hand, chilling, doing not too much, but let's assume that they do something in the main monster zone and the graveyard, and we have to Ice Dragon's Prison something away. That's perfectly fine. Then we have to Beatrice, and for Beatrice, we're going to be sending Backjack so we can get some more back row set up here. You know, usually we send like Fairy Tale Snow, but in this case, I want to try and get more back row set up. So we send the Backjack. I'm hoping to reveal a Trap Trick or Dynamiscus or Karma Cut because we have the Rhino Warrior in hand. So that's what I'm hoping for, but we'll give this a cut here. The Backjack triggers to look at the top cards as well as the Dante triggers to add the Seer back to hand. So let's look at the top 3. There's a trap trick. It's exactly what we're looking for. We put it there. We banish that to get the trap trick, set the trap trick. We could assume that we activate it, and we're going to be banishing a Dinomischus to summon to set a Dinomischus. And before I said that we would be discarding the Rhino Warrior, but because we added the Seer back off of the Dante, we could actually Dinomischus, pitch the Seer, and Seer effect summon the Dante. And yeah, our opponent probably isn't playing through that. That's just really, really strong. But that's another line of play. If you guys don't want to stick to the main DPE route, you do have other options that you can go through. But that basically wraps up the entirety of this test hand video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope the combos at the beginning were helpful too. I know that I've showed some of these combos before. I don't think the Trisbaena combo I've really gone into that often. I might have shown it on one video a while back, but this is obviously a slightly more updated deck list, taking the ban list into consideration. If you guys want to play something like Hydrolander, you can play Hydrolander in this deck. I wouldn't play it at 3, but you can play it if you want to. I would almost pop out the DP engine, though, if you're playing Hydrolander. It's obviously up to all of you as to what you want to do. I don't want anyone to just take my deck list and say, I'm going to play this, this card for card, and I'm going to make sure that it works. Because your locals may be different than my locals. Your overall tournament play experience may be different than mine. So don't just net deck it. Change what you feel is necessary to change. I'm not going to tell you that you can't change it. You can do whatever you want. I just, for my personal play style and my area that I play in, I play the ratios that I do for a reason. But if all of you think that you have to play something different, by all means do so and swap out what you deem necessary. But as I mentioned before, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you go ahead and do that because it's significantly appreciated. And obviously, like I said before as well, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload more videos. But for right now, this is Drew, Traveler of the Burning Abyss, signing out.